Howdy, welcome to the Warrior One podcast. I am Ben Wiggins, your co-host from Mays Business School and the Podcast Architects. And I'm here with the host of the show and your new district superintendent, Dr. Rick Fernandez. Rick, it's a pleasure to be speaking with you again. How are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. This is a very exciting day for us. It's our first podcast here in Tuloso-Midway ISD, and I want to thank you and Kyle for being a part of this and helping us launch this. So super excited.
Yes, big shouts to our producer and my business partner, Kyle Ackerman. We definitely appreciate your hard work. Rick, let's as intro to this first episode, let's talk a little bit about what our listeners can expect from the show.
Absolutely. So our goal is to have guests that are going to do two things. Number one, they're going to highlight all of the great things that are going on in Tuloso-Midway ISD, but they're also going to be partners, our business partners, our university partners, people that are invested with where the district is going and the needs of our kids. So you'll see teachers, you'll see students, you'll see some of our administrators, and you'll also see a lot of our community members, hopefully that will be willing to join us as we move forward.
Excellent. And for our inaugural episode today, we have two very special guests. We have one student and one district partner. Can you give us we'll do a more thorough intro for Dr. V a little bit later, but just give us the quick hits on why these two guests.
Absolutely. So Josh Alvarado is one of our senior basketball players, and I'm a former basketball player, which you know, so I love basketball. So Josh will be joining us to talk about the season, to talk about some of his experiences and where he started, and to also talk about some adversity. And Josh is a great kid, and Coach will be here to join him and to support him. So we're excited about that. And then we also have a great partner. So Dr. Villarreal from Texas A&M University-Kingsville will be joining us, and she's going to be here to discuss our partnership, our pipeline for new teachers. So we have student teachers coming in from Kingsville. Mm-hmm. And we want to provide them with the best experience possible to get them ready. Because as you know, the world is changing very quickly, and with COVID, with the job market, with everything. So it's going to take a great partnership to prepare our new teachers. And we're very excited about that.
And we're very excited about the conversations today. It's going to be some good discussion. Let's go.
Let's do it.
We welcome Josh Alvarado to the show. Thanks for joining us today, Josh.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
We wanted to start off with a question about how old were you when you first picked up a basketball? Where did this sport start for you?
I think it started when I was about 3 years old, because I have an older brother too, and he always played basketball. He played for TM just like me.
And you've had some good success on the court, but you dealt with a pretty significant setback last year. Tell us a little bit about your injury.
Well, around May last year, I had torn my lateral meniscus, my ACL, and fractured my kneecap in my left leg. But at first we thought it was a sprain. So for about a month, I was walking on it, like icing it and walking on it, just taking care of it. And then about 2 weeks went by and it was still swollen, like as big as a baseball. So I went to get an MRI and found out it was completely different. So for about 4 months, I was attending Humble Physical Therapy, just getting leg workouts in and just trying to get back as quick as possible. And so in an injury that should have took me at least 1.5 years to rehab and get back for, it only took me 4 months, and I'm blessed to say I'm back on the court today.
That's fantastic.
Do you remember the first moment when you knew it was back to full strength? Was there a pickup game or a drill that you can think of and you like, all right, I'm back?
For about 3 months, there was just straight same workout, same leg lifts and rubber bands, just doing the same stuff every day. And then one day I went into therapy and they were like, all right, we're going to do some sprinting today. And in my head, I was like, wait, sprinting? I was like, I haven't done that in about 3 months. I don't know if I'm capable. I was kind of nervous at first. And then I was like, I'm just going to do it. So I started going, whatever they were telling me to do. I always started slow. I'd pick up speed. I'd break down to a stop. And then that day was just like, I'm back. Like from the start, like I felt like 100%.
Excellent.
What do you think has been the most outstanding moment as in your time with TM basketball? Is there one moment or one achievement that you can tell us about that's just been an unbelievable experience for you?
Last year, the Cal Allen home game, playing to clinch a playoff spot for the first time in I don't know how long, since it's longer than I've been here. But that game was back and forth all game, back and forth. to the final second. Carolina got the last shot up and we contested it, got the rebound, ended the game. And the aftermath, everybody was just like shocked. Like we're in the playoffs. Like we made a cake and stuff with our picture on it. Like everybody it was just a happy moment for a TM.
Did you guys watch the tape? And I always like to look at coaches' reactions when they make that playoff run. Did you happen to see the tape and look at coach's reaction?
Coach's reaction was he turned around and looked at the crowd. He just looked at everything, the aftermath.
Awesome.
Yeah, you got to process stuff like that. All right. Now, so we talked about the good moments. I want to hear about the dirt. What drill does everybody on the team hate the most?
No doubt in my mind, everybody hates 17s. 17s is just pure like torture for your body. Like you take the court and you run along the width of it, up and back 17 times. And after you do that, you run 15 times. And after you do that one, you run 13 times and so on. But dribbling the ball, constantly running back and forth, it's like you're dead before practice even starts. Like, and everybody knows it's coming and everybody hates it because it doesn't get easier because the faster you go, coach is going to take off more time and we're on a time limit. So you have to keep going fast and everything. But I mean, it's been working for us. I'm not complaining.
So you guys play an up-tempo style, a lot of pressing. So has there been a time where you understand, okay, this is what that drill is for. It's getting us over the hump. It's getting us in better condition.
Oh, yes, sir. Everybody hates it, but at the end, we all know it's for our own good.
What about when coach gets after you? Like, can you do like an impression of what he talks like when he's upset?
I don't think me and coach has ever had like a one-on-one experience, like back to back, going back and forth. But there's this one player on our team and he's been known to mess up every now and then. So coach would just shout, "Oh, what are you doing?" And then one other thing he does, he'll just slap his hands and go like just move his hands. So everybody will be doing that right after he does it. It's funny just to watch him on the bench. Like you barely watch the game. You just watch him walk back and forth.
What are you guys hoping to accomplish next year? You said making the playoffs was a huge step for you this year. How do you move that forward? What's the next incremental piece of progress?
This is my final run. I'm a senior this year, so I'm going to put it all on the line for my team this year. But hopefully the way that we've been playing and the way that I hold the team together, me and my other senior players, I hope that it stays a tradition for a long time. I have a younger brother coming up from 8th grade too, so I hope the way I'm playing right now is going to translate to the way he plays when he's a junior and a senior.
Love it.
So Josh, I got to ask you this because I'm new to the area, but I hear there's a pretty good barbecue joint in town. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, sir. There's a new barbecue joint going down Leopard right here. It's called Cool Arrows Barbecue. Okay. I just want to recommend the brisket sandwich. It's heaven in your mouth.
All right. Cool Arrows Barbecue.
Cool Arrows Barbecue. Yes, sir.
Got it. Josh, if you were talking to someone who attends school in a different district, what would you tell them about going to school here?
I would say it's a great school. Everybody's real close to each other. Like everybody knows everybody. It's a small community. It's more of a big family than rather separate schools.
Fantastic.
What would you say about Coach Garcia? Obviously, he's new, fairly new to our team and is our new head coach. Talk to us a little bit about him. What makes him a great coach?
He doesn't give up on you. Like even if you mess up and slack off and he sees you, like physically sees you, like he's not going to give up. He's going to get mad at you like every other coach would, but he's not going to tell you like, I'm done with you. Like go leave, get out of my face. Like he don't give up on you. He's always there for you. Regardless if it's about basketball or not, he'll be there for you.
Josh, thanks so much for your time. We really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us.
Yes, sir.
What a great discussion. Really enjoyed the talk with Josh.
Absolutely. As you can tell, very talented young man on and off the court. And as our first official guest, I thought he did a great job. And he highlighted, I think, what makes TM special.
Yes.
And you saw a little bit of that in some of his answers. So great guest, great student, and great teammate.
Yes. I loved that he talked about family. You know, with what we do at Mays Business School and with Texas A&M University, it's really important to that feeling of family shines through in what we do as well. And love to see that at the K through 12 level, and really impressed with everything that the district is doing.
Yeah, and on a personal note, that was a big draw for me. This is a great district, and the sense of family. I've got 3 young kids and a wife, and that was important to us. And Josh was an absolute representation of what makes this district special. So he couldn't be happier with him and the type of kids that we have here in TM.
What is the most important thing that you are trying to implement or that the district is trying to implement in terms of bringing the family forward and helping take the next step?
It's really about options, because everything is changing so fast for our kids and our country, really. It's about bringing more options and educating our kids, our family, and our community on what is available, and that the path to success, for whatever people believe that is, there's a lot of different paths. And the path that I had or the path that you had may not be the path for our kids now. It may have a nonlinear transition that they can go through multiple paths. And as we're seeing, kids and recent graduates are diversifying what they do. A lot of them have 4 or 5 jobs and these side gigs, and very lucrative. And so we want to be at the forefront of that and make sure that our kids here in TM have every option, whether it's college, whether it's the workforce, whether it's a trade. That's the focus, is making sure we provide all options for all kids to be successful.
Yeah, and that really takes us into our intro for our next guest.
Sure.
Dr. Lucy A. Villarreal is a former classroom teacher, counselor, school administrator, and Region 1 education and leadership specialist. Her career spans more than 2 decades in public education, and her leadership work includes working with more than 40 school districts across the state of Texas in the areas of innovation, school turnaround and school improvement, leadership, student learning, coaching, and professional evaluation and development systems. Currently, she serves as the Assistant Dean of Educator Preparation and Partnership Development at Texas A&M University-Kingsville in the College of Education and Human Performance. She's the author of a recently published educational article featured in the American Association for the Advancement of Computing in Education, the AACE, where she presented a qualitative study on the perceptions and perspectives of educational leaders of the value of Twitter on educator morale and professional development. She will also be presenting on program improvement at the Association for Advancing Quality in Educator Preparation Programs, the AAQEP, 2021 Quality Assurance Symposium. Dr. Villarreal is passionate about creating environments designed for evolution, responsiveness, and continuous learning. She is a travel junkie and describes herself as a Pollyanna, edu nerd, change agent, and forever teacher. Her extensive experience in leadership development, teacher recruitment and preparation, pedagogy, and professional learning in public education makes her a unique university assistant dean. We are very excited to have her on the program. We hope you enjoy the interview.
Let's get into it.
Dr. V, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for the invitation. I'm deeply honored.
It is our pleasure to have you here. Let's give you some intro to our guest. Give us a quick paragraph on your career road.
All right. Well, my career road has been filled with great experiences and many stops and transitions along the way. It all began in the classroom. I began as a teacher, teaching pre-algebra and algebra to 7th and 8th grade students. After serving as a teacher for 6 years, I transitioned into a counselor's position. I served as a high school counselor and middle school counselor. Counseling paved the way for me to go into school administration. As a school counselor, many times you are asked to fill in for assistant principals. So that was a transition into school administration. I served as a school administrator in both intermediate and middle school for 9 years. After serving as a school administrator, I then made the transition into the regional service center, where I became part of a team, former principals who went around Region 1 and served 37 districts and 17 charter schools, providing leadership support in the areas of TPES and TTES and the evaluation system. I have been in higher ed for the past 2 years. The first year that I began my work in higher education, I was still at the service center, and I met someone from the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley, who asked me to teach a course in education to undergraduate students. So that was the beginning of my higher ed experience. So after leaving the service center, I worked at the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley, where I served as an adjunct and field supervisor. Later, an opportunity came up with Texas A&M Kingsville to serve as a director of educator preparation. I'm an alum from A&M Kingsville, so they contacted me, asked me if I was interested in the position. So I started as a director for educator preparation. 6 months later, my title was changed to Assistant Dean of Educator Preparation Program. That is the role that I currently serve in. So when I reflect back on my career road, I have always been an individual who has never necessarily signed up to do things, but has been at the right time, at the right place, and have been asked to go the next level. So I'm very grateful for all the opportunities that I have received and the multiple roles that I have been able to play in education for over 2 decades now.
Well, they say luck is when preparation meets opportunity, and you're uniquely positioned now as a seasoned K through 12 educator working in higher learning. How has that experience helped you in your new role?
Well, it helped tremendously because as a former school principal, I understood about accountability. I understood about quality assurance. I understood about data. I understood about program evaluation. I understood about result-driven performance. So all of those skills that I was able to acquire as a teacher, counselor, principal in Region 1 helped me, in my new role at the university level.
One of the things I'm most excited about is your experience in public ed. And now we have a great partner that understands all of the things that teachers are going through and administrators and in our districts. What do you think is the biggest difference between public ed and higher ed?
Some of the differences that I have observed are, first of all, the culture in higher ed is different. In higher ed, everything seems to be more formal. Everything is very ceremonious. Higher ed educators are highly reverent. The other difference that I've noticed is accountability is perceived differently. I think that has a lot to do with the fact that at the university level, we have adult learners, students who are 18 years older. So the expectation is that they should be responsible for their own learning and be self-learners. So the accountability is seen different. Change is also another, it's different how it's handled in higher ed. For example, with my experience in public education, if you are a principal at a campus, it's very easy to affect change in a campus. But when you, for example, in this role that I play now as Assistant Dean of Educator Preparation Program, if I want to affect change or bring about change, because it's a higher education institution tied into state requirements, districts, it affects the whole profession. It's a lot difficult and it's a slower process.
I have a question for you, Dr. Fernandez. How does that relate to your experience as a superintendent? Being a principal, it's easier to affect fast change.
Yes.
Does the boat get bigger as a superintendent as well?
Well, absolutely. This is my first year as a superintendent. So it's definitely a learning curve, no matter who you are or where you are. But because each decision affects the entirety of the system, you have to be more methodical. You have to have a great understanding of any effect that a decision that you make may have.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be cautious and go slower, and you have to make sure that you have the relationships and that your teammates are on board and that you have great partnerships to help you get there, because there's superintendents, districts, they all need great partnerships so that students have the best outcomes available. So it's a learning process. You learn about how to make sure everybody's understanding the why, and that everybody's on board. And that's different. As a principal, it's a little bit of a quicker process, and you're responsible for your campus and your students and your staff. But when you're responsible for the entirety of the district, it does take some time to get used to making sure everybody's on board and making sure everybody's understands the why and the need of change or a different program or what have you. So I love it. I love it. I mean, it's every time I'm learning, I'm growing, whether it's difficult, whether it's easy, it's a great experience for me.
Dr. V, one of the other challenges that you've spoken about is the process of connecting theory to practice. Can you walk us through a little bit of how those dots connect in higher learning?
Well, if you recall, I mentioned earlier how accountability in higher ed is seen differently because we deal with adult learners. What I see in higher ed is that we teach students all of this theory, but we need to do a better job at connecting what we teach students in the classroom to what happens in the real world. This is why the partnership with school districts such as Tuloso-Midway is vital for us. We need to, and this is why we engage in this partnership, because we want to bring our faculty to see what is happening in the classrooms. What are the real issues of real students in real time so that they are not disconnected from reality. So that is a work in progress. There hasn't been a more important time than now to connect with real issues in real time and not be disconnected at the university level. But that's something we're working on.
Sure. So in terms of seeing how things are actually happening in education, in terms of how this partnership moves the ball forward for that,
right?
What are the most important specific steps that you're taking to implement all of that? Does that question make sense?
Yes, it does. The more important steps that we're taking is, first of all, starting the partnership with the representative of the district, which is the superintendent. So we have sat down with Dr. Fernandez and talked to him about our efforts in developing the best teachers we can. He has also shared with us what they're doing in his district. So in order for a higher ed institution or an educator preparation program in this case to stay relevant, we have to stay connected to school districts, to students. So we are very intentional and deliberate with our efforts. So we have to be where students are at and learning and knowing what's happening in real time in the real world.
Okay.
If I can jump in on that for just a minute, the state of Texas is underproducing teachers by 35,000 a year. So all of our school districts are competing for that same group of teachers.
Yeah.
And take COVID and you add that on there. Our first year teachers and the programming that goes into getting them prepared to step into a classroom has totally changed. And the reason that this partnership is so valuable is because I have a willing partner in A&M Kingsville. I have a great contact in Dr. V that understands all of these things that are going on. And that's critical, because if we don't communicate with our higher ed partners and make sure that everything that we do in training new teachers is relevant to them, it won't translate into the classroom for the kids. And the reason that, as soon as I met her and Dr. Bain, I knew that they were genuinely interested in a true partnership, not just an MOU, not just hey, this is kind of what we do. It was, how do we make the best experience for our brand new teachers that's going to benefit the college, that'll benefit us, and ultimately benefit my kids, right? So that is where I think the meat of our partnership lies, is just the willingness to understand that we've got to do a little bit more talking, a little bbit more communication on what it looks like from theory to practice to the workforce. And so the other piece is bringing in our business partners, and because our business partners have a say in, this is how we want kids trained. This is what they need to know when they come and work for us. So I'm super excited about this. This is going to be a great opportunity for our kids and our teachers and hopefully a bunch of A&M Kingsville graduates.
How does this all connect to the process of how you've innovated with partnerships in the past? For example, you pitched the partnership in terms of the Academy of Energy and International Business at Tomball Independent School District, which was implemented by Dr. Salazar Zamora and her very capable team up there. How did these dots then connect for you?
So the biggest lesson that I learned is, school districts are always looking for partnerships. But when you boil it down, a lot of times we're just asking for things, asking for donation, asking for time, asking for help, which is those things are great. And we'll continue to do that and leverage our relationships. But for me, as soon as you can provide some reciprocal value to a business or to your university, to your community, that changes the nature of the partnership. It changes the investment that both parties have. And so starting in Tomball under some great leadership and we were able to do some very innovative things. Those lessons I'm hoping to transfer here in the partnerships that we have. The district and myself are going to add just as much value to our partners as they do to us. And so you have a true mutually invested partnership that at the end of the day produces better results for kids. And so I think that is as I've been learning about how to engage your community members, that's the biggest piece it's, hey, we're not just asking for your time or your money or your efforts. We're going to give you some value back by putting highly qualified students in the job force.
Dr. V, what do you look for when deciding whether or not to partner with a specific school district?
Some of the things, and this is something that Dr. Bain, the dean of the college, and I have discussed. And what we look for when partnering up with school districts is, of course, a superintendent who can communicate to us their vision. A superintendent who is visionary, a superintendent who has goals for the district, a superintendent that is willing to take risks, to try something new, a superintendent who has an innovator's mindset, a superintendent who is willing to, for example, Dr. Fernandez said, who is willing to reciprocate, superintendents who are willing to do the work with us and who understand that this will take work. This will not be done. You cannot improve the quality of education for students in the state of Texas by just signing an MOU. It'll require work. So Dr. Fernandez has demonstrated that he's willing to do the work together with us.
Right. So the warning sign would be someone who just wants to shake hands, cut the ribbon, get their picture taken in the newspaper, that kind of thing.
And yes. And as a seasoned educator, and Dr. Bain is a seasoned administrator, higher ed administrator, we know when someone is just, wanting to just sign an MOU and say later, So that's a warning sign for us. So we're interested in partnering up with those districts who are willing to do the work.
Mm-hmm. And Dr. Fernandez, you've set up another partnership when you were in Tomball with the name escapes me now,
Axiom Medical.
Axiom Medical, and that. So, but I'm sure there were other partnerships that you considered, other brainstorms that you ended up walking away from. What were, and obviously you don't have to name any names, but what were the reasons that you might not have continued forward with considering a partnership for your district at the time?
Well, it has to be, the great thing about both BJ Services and Axiom Medical, the two partnerships that we had in Tomball.
Yes.
You had leadership that really wanted to be invested in the mission of education, that wanted to be invested in the community. For BJ and Axiom, we had their workforce, some of their workforce were sending their kids to our schools.
Right.
So they had a vested interest. And then you had two leaders, Malcolm O'Neill, which Ben, and then Mark Robinson, the CEO of Axiom, and Darrell Wheeler, those are individuals that want to do the right thing because it's good for kids. It's good for the community. It's good for our state. And you don't really get that. That's rare where you have people that want to do it because it's going to benefit everybody. It's not about the bottom line. It's not about tax break. It's about we're vested because it's the right thing to do and we see a need and we want to help you. And so it's easy to tell if it's just about kind of like Dr. V said, if it's a PR moment or if it's just so they can say, hey, we're donated to a school, or those things don't get me wrong. The finance and everything, it's great because we need all the help we can get. But it's a different level when you have somebody that's actually invested and going to put their time and their effort and walk the entirety of the way from pre-K to graduation. Those partners are rare, right? Those partners are rare. And when you find one that's somebody that's passionate, that has the same level of desire to provide the best product, you gravitate to those people and you gravitate to those organizations. And so I think it's easy to tell who's really going to be a good partner and who wants to do the work, because this is not easy work and we're all very busy people. But you got to make the time, right? You got to make the time to have the conversations and the communication. So those are the big keys that I look for and I will continue to look for with our partnerships.
In terms of connecting theory to practice and moving that forward, and also more broadly, what are the most surprising changes that have happened in education over the past 3 or 4 years prior to COVID, of course, because that's something that's kind of changed everything. But
totally.
How has that changed either for better or for worse over the last 3 or 4 years?
Prior to COVID, one of the most surprising changes that I had seen was the need to integrate technology into the classroom.
Right.
And that was not happening. So the lack of technology integration was a problem before COVID. And so now with COVID, of course, that changed everything and reimagined education, the way we knew it. So that was a change that, 3-4 years ago, we understood the need for technology integration, yet we were not doing it. So that was a surprise change for me to see that it was not happening. Yeah. But I'm happy to see that it's happening and how fast we innovated and how fast we were able to integrate technology into teaching and learning.
Necessity is the mother of invention.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. I want to add a little piece to that. From a K-12 standpoint, the biggest change that I've seen in the last 3 to 4 years is just the different avenues for kids to be successful. And it's almost like we've shifted back before the big push during the 90s to 100% of the kids are going to college no matter what. And now we have all this industry and the job market exploding. And along with Dr. V, it's the majority technological based jobs, right? So the kids have to have these types of skills and it gives them all of these different options, and the type of jobs are nonlinear paths. And so the job market has changed. And so therefore we have to change how we're educating kids to prepare them for that and to have the skills that are necessary to go into a job market or go into a college major and be successful. So it's a very exciting time because we're rethinking all of the coursework and then all of the value that we could add by having great partnerships, right? So it's unbelievable time for innovation.
I have a question for both of you. Who is least impressed with your PhD?
I got. Let me take this one. So my middle son Lance, who is 7 years old at the time, he was 5 years old, so he was in kinder, and he comes downstairs one morning and he doesn't have his clothes on. He's not ready to go to school. I'm about to leave to go to my job, and mom takes the kids to school, and he's like, "Dad, I'm not feeling good. I don't want to go to school today." And of course I said, "You're going to school. You're fine." And he's like, "Well, Dad, I was thinking you could write me a note." I'm like, "Write you a note?" He says, "Yeah, "You're a doctor, right? You can write me a doctor's excuse." And I said, I am a doctor, but I'm not that kind of doctor. And just the look of, he was so deflated and disgusted that I couldn't forge his doctor's excuses for 12 years of his education.
He didn't know you were an imposter this whole time.
No, clearly he thought I was going to be able to get him out of school. So very disappointed as he went back up the stairs to get dressed. So I would give it to him as being least impressed with my doctoral degree.
What about you, Dr. V?
I think I would have to say my dad. I'm a first generation college student.
Okay.
So, and I grew up in Laredo. It's a border town. My dad has no formal education. So, he does not understand really the level of education that I've acquired. He knows that I have a doctorate degree, but he doesn't really care for it, or, he treats me the same, but and I'm sure he is super proud of me, but he never really, I don't think he understands.
There's not that sense of reverence.
Yes.
Like you said earlier.
Yes. But I don't mind it. I know he loves me and he's proud of me he's proud of all the things that I've been able to do and accomplish in my career.
That's great. To steal a question we always ask on the Mays MasterCast, Dr. V, is there anyone you would like to send good bull?
Well, I do. I do. I want to send out a shout out to everyone at the university. Especially, I would like to send a shout out to all the staff, the faculty and administration in the College of Education and Human Performance. Special recognition to my team, and also to our visionary leader, Dr. Dean Bain. He's the Dean of the College of Education. And also our very supportive provost and university president, Dr. Lou Reitnish and Dr. Hussey. Thank you for your support to the provost, the university president. We are currently the fastest growing college at the university, the College of Ed. And it's only because of their leadership and their support. So I just want to send a shout out to them and everyone in the College of Education and Human Performance.
Fantastic.
I'll actually... since it's board recognition month, my board of trustees who hired me, and so they've been very supportive and very encouraging with some of the new ideas that we want to try here. Also, Dr. Bain and Dr. V for being willing to partner and listen to my vision and jumping in. And I told them I like to move fast, so when they said, "Hey, this is what we want to do," I said, "Great, let me start working on the MOU." And then obviously, Ben, you've met Dr. Z and Tom Ball,
yes.
A great friend and mentor who let me start down this road with doing some different things and seeing what worked and trying to go after some business partnerships in a very different way. So I owe her a great deal. And then this wonderful district, like Josh, our student, said earlier, family, right? And I've been treated like family since I've been here, and this is a wonderful place to be. And so we're looking for great things as we move forward.
Fantastic. Dr. V, how can our parents, faculty, and administrators keep up with what you're doing?
Well, luckily, there's many ways you can keep up with what I'm doing. So they definitely people can keep up with what I'm doing through many avenues and media platforms, Twitter, and our university website, and College of Education and Human Performance webpage.
And for our listeners, we'll have those in the show notes. So
Okay.
Just scan through wherever you listen to your podcast and just read the description, and these methods of connecting will all be available there. Dr. V, thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate your time. What a lovely discussion.
It's been my pleasure. I've enjoyed every
Absolutely.
minute of
Let me
it.
second that, because I know it's short notice and this is our first episode. So thank you for being a part.
And thanks to you as well, Dr. Fernandez, for putting all of this together. This has been a wonderful conversation, and hopefully it will be educational, insightful, and some humor as well for our listeners.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. We hope you enjoyed those discussions. I certainly enjoyed them. Dr. Rick, what was the big thing for you today?
Well, I think Josh hit it first with family, the community, and the investment that the community has in our schools here. And with Dr. V, the partnership and the willingness to do the work when there is a true partnership. I'm very excited about the prospects for that. And those two big things, you've got to do the work. You've got to have family and support to get the work done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I really appreciated the idea that experience from over here can be super useful over there. And that's something that's encouraging to me because I've had a couple of career changes, and it's, even ending up in the business world, my prior experience in media has actually proven to be really helpful. And, kind of here we are.
Absolutely.
So I'm very grateful for that. And it's nice to see others who are kind of, making a transition and finding that, that their previous experience was time very well spent.
Absolutely.
Rick, why Tuloso-Midway? Coming out of this discussion, what do you think? What do you think was the most important thing that spoke to what makes this district special?
The family and the intentionality with which we're going to engage our partners to get the best outcomes for our kids. I think those two things are huge because although there's COVID happening and there's a lot of difficult things going on in the world right now, there's also an opportunity to reframe how we think about education, the possibilities with technology. I mean, out of necessity, kids have to have an understanding of technology and how to utilize it. So I like to think about the possibilities. And so for us, we want to make sure that we're keeping everybody safe, but we also want to look to the future and make sure we are at the forefront of the innovation and the opportunities for our kids and our teachers.
Fantastic. What's the call to action for our listeners following the episode?
I think we always want parents to be a part of the process with their kids and with the education that we provide as a district. But I would ask that we're open to new possibilities. And when we want to add something maybe that we've never had before, let's do that together. Let's ask the questions together. Let's take advantage of our opportunities together, because it may not be something that I've had in my experience or you've had in your experience or our parents have had in their experience, but it may be an experience that our kids need. And so I would ask that they're open to those possibilities. And when we have opportunities, that they partner with us and explore them with us. Podcasting, right? Or new social media opportunities or new technology opportunities that are going to enhance the experiences of their students.
Fantastic. Thanks to everyone for listening. And thank you, Dr. Rick, for innovating this show, for creating this. What a wonderful opportunity for the students, for the partners, for parents. Thanks for putting this message out there.
I appreciate it. And I look for more episodes to come.
Thanks for listening.